Hi Pop-Tarts, today it's time for a deck opening. I feel like it's been a little while since I added a new deck to my collection. I do still have a small handful of them that need to be opened, but as many of you know, I'm not about just opening decks as soon as I get them. I feel like there has to be a special time, and there has to be, the way I see it is there has to be room in my life with tarot and oracle to introduce myself to something new, to really have the time and the energy to put into working with that new deck, and to feel like I'm excited as I'm opening it and experiencing it, rather than feeling slightly stressed because I've already got too much on my plate or I'm already working with a deck that is quite new to my collection. Now for me, I get the same way about clothes and stuff as well. Like if I feel, or books, anything like that, if I feel like I've already saturated myself quite a lot with new things and things that I'm experimenting with or enjoying or trying out or haven't had a chance to try out yet, I don't really want to pile on more. It kind of makes me feel a little bit sick and a little bit as though I've just eaten something really rich and I wish I hadn't eaten that much. It's like that with anything for me. Oversaturation in any degree with anything material doesn't feel great to me, or at least it can feel great for a little while with clothing, but it quickly becomes a case of just like, oh no, I've just bought too much, and no. So I try to kind of keep it modest in terms of how often I open decks, how often I buy decks. I did go in for the Kickstarter for the Marigold Tarot, which, as you'll know from the title, is what I'm going to be opening today. The creator of this deck is Untitled Chapter. She is an illustrator and a zine creator, and she wanted to create the kind of deck that she really wanted to work with. She wasn't seeing anything on the market that really flipped the switch for her, so she wanted to kind of use her illustration style, put in specific symbols and emblems that are important to her, like flowers and skulls, and she also wanted to create a deck that showcased a lot of the clothing styles and the jewellery that she was around growing up in a Punjabi household. So when I saw the images for this deck, I think it was something that a subscriber or audience member kind of sent to me, suggested the link to me, or it might have been a handful of people. Sometimes people are very aware of the kind of style that I would love, and sometimes a few people email me or message me the same link. Or tweet me. A lot of tweeting goes on, and I was just in love from the first. I was like, yep, you know me well, I'm gonna have to support this on Kickstarter. So I'm really excited to get into it. Looking at the illustrations, I could see it would be something that I would really use, so I'm excited. Had to pay a customs charge on it, sadly. The customs charges. I try and stay cheery about customs charges, but it's hard because they really are a wild card, and sometimes I can't understand how it's come to be that I owe almost the price of the deck again on customs charges, but never mind. It's a professional hazard, I guess. I am in. That one was a bit sweaty. Well, everything's a bit sweaty today in England, I guess. It is hot. Okay, here is the Marigold Tarot. Here is the box. And it says on the back, a 78 card tarot deck rooted in life, death and gold. Illustrated by Untitled Chapter. I'm very excited about this, guys. I'm just going to get into the plastic, which always feels good. There's a little hole at the bottom there for easy access for me. Lush. Okay, and I am in. So as usual with all of my unboxing and first impressions videos, there are going to be cutaways so that you can actually see some of the detail of the cards. Just to specify, or just to kind of clarify before I get into this, this is not a walkthrough. I'm not going to be showing you all of the imagery. I noticed one or two narky comments underneath my last unboxing and first impressions from people saying that they would like to see less of my face and more of the cards. If you want walkthroughs, there are other channels that do walkthroughs. I am not about showcasing every single card in the deck. I'm not about displaying the entire creation. If you like the look of it from what I show you in an unboxing and first impressions, you can consider purchasing it yourself if it's still available for purchase. But I don't do walkthroughs on my channel, so you will be seeing my face, I'm afraid. But you will also be seeing some cutaways. So let's get into it. Oh, I love the symbols on the side of the box. That's beautiful. So you've got there a hand with a halo around it that kind of looks like it's touching light, and then a skull, a dagger, and some kind of flower. That looks absolutely gorgeous. So it appears to be, oh no, it's not a tuck box, it's okay, it's actually a two-piece box, but it's quite hard to get into. I'm having trouble with this. Oh my goddess, you kind of have to shake it a bit, I guess, to Now you see, I really wish it had just been made like a little snapshot magnetic thing. You know, why not? The deck more than exceeded its funding goal. So would have been great to see a box that was easier to get into. Like I'm literally having to use the scissors now to get into it. I wonder if anyone else had this problem. I never watch it unboxing and first impressions for a deck that I'm waiting to unbox, so I don't know. But this is... I wonder if it's the heat. It just will not come away, and I'm having to really risk the box now to get some purchase on it with these scissors, which is probably not a great... I won't show you in case you're cringing at this, but honestly... This is really, really weird. There's no matte finish to this at all. It's gloss, and I don't know if it's the heat, but it is stuck the fuck together, guys. I can't believe this. What the fuck? Right, okay. I'm gonna have to go in with a knife. I'm gonna have to slide a knife up inside and try and prise it. Whew, not a good start, Pop-Tarts, I'm going to admit, not a good start at all. I did get the box open. It was a palaver and a half. I'm not going to be encasing the deck back into this box when I'm done, because that was just irritating. It's a really pretty design, but I feel like it's very thin and it's extremely glossy, to the point where, yeah, it doesn't surprise me that it sort of ended up sealing itself together. And that was just really... horrible, because I almost thought I was going to damage the box by doing that. But anyway, I'm not going to be using this box clearly, because it's just not well made, sadly. So that's the first thing to be said. So I'll close that up and let's get into the deck. I've still managed to retain my excitement, even though huffing and puffing in my kitchen trying to delicately use a knife to open a box is just like, not the one. Okay. Wow, so there's a very matte finish. I can almost see the grain of the cards with this matte finish. Immediately, it just looks so imposing and so different. Really beautiful. There's an elegance to it, but there's also a darkness to it, you know, that really kind of would make it stand out, I think, if it was just sat on a table or there was a spread laid out. I mean, it really does get your attention. It's a very thin playing card stock. Which I know is an issue for some people, so I always do like to talk about the stock, whether it's thick, whether it's thin, whatever. The backing on the cards is really, really beautiful. That is such a stunning backing. Really can't fault that. And the borders as well are really beautiful. They've got these intricate patterns. It's almost like a double border, so it's like a picture frame kind of border. Really gorgeous. So, yeah. Really pretty. I can't wait to look through. I'm very taken with the Magician. That's really beautiful. I love the way the head of the skeleton is facing downwards, and you've got the skeleton's arm aloft holding onto a star. There's these amazing sort of like laurel leaf kind of things either side of the skeleton's legs and feet. It's almost like the Magician figure is actually really in the midst of doing a spell. And you could say the same is true of the traditional Rider-Waite imagery, but it really looks like something is going on here with the Magician. It looks like you are literally walking in on someone doing some kind of spell or ritual, which is really exciting to see. There is something really mystical and magical about this Magician card. So I feel like almost the way that the head is facing down as well in the image is very much showing the level of investment and concentration that's going into whatever the Magician figure is doing. So you almost feel again as though you're walking in on this magical process, you're walking in on this magical act. So I definitely really enjoy that. The High Priestess was an image that really kind of helped me to connect with the deck so much when I saw it before. I really love the Salwar Kameez. I love the garlands either side showing, you know, almost like these ethereal ghostly curtains either side that makes it look really ceremonial and really pretty. And then you've got the fruit and the flowers in either hand. I really like the gold sort of tassel style embellishments on the clothing. And I love that crescent moon up above. There's something really beautiful and symmetrical about this image, and definitely it is it's a High Priestess card that I can get on board with, that I really enjoy, that I think looks really potent and really powerful. I really take a lot of interest in the High Priestess card. It is one of my key cards, if you will, one of the cards that I really like to see being made well. I'll show you guys the Empress and the Emperor together side by side, I think, in the cutaways. You have got a couple of very suave, very debonair looking people here. These two figures do have a beautiful kind of symmetry and cohesion between them. You've got the garlands up above either side, giving again that ceremonial or kind of sort of regal aristocratic vibe above, and then you've got the plants either side as well. They appear to be sitting on chairs that are made very similarly, and then the Empress is holding a dagger and the Emperor is holding onto a sword, and they both have their feet in incredible footwear, really beautiful kind of power footwear, statement footwear, and both of them have their feet resting on these stools. So there is a synergy, there is you know, a link between them, which is really cool to see. At first I thought the Chariot was riding a unicycle. I thought the Chariot card was riding a unicycle. It does appear to be a bike. It does appear that there is a piece of metal going through between the legs, and assuming that that leads onto, oh yeah, I can see the back wheel in the background just about. So yeah, the Chariot is riding a bike, which is really novel and different. I've never seen that before in a deck, so that's very cool to see. But even though the Chariot is riding a bike, and you might somehow see that as a bit of a downgrade from the ordinary horse imagery that we see with the Chariot, but I think because of the style of the illustrations for this deck, the amazing fine lines in the illustrations, the beautiful diamond shaped stars in the background, and everything else, the gold, it seems to retain a very regal looking vibe to it. You know, the image definitely doesn't say to me that there isn't that sense of momentum or that sense of adventure or that sense of will that the Chariot card is so associated with usually. So to me, even though practically in my mind this could be seen as a downgrade in terms of the mode of transportation being used to symbolise the momentum for the Chariot, I still feel like it's a very powerful card. Strength is very shadow oriented for me, I would say. First of all, I love the fact that we are getting such a strong close-up look at the form of the human skeleton, and I really love looking at skeletons. I love looking at anatomical drawings. I love the whole idea of the skeletal structure, and I find it very emblematic, very pleasing, very meaningful to me. So that was obviously one of the main reasons I funded Marigold Tarot anyway. But I really love the fact that we're getting such a close look now at actually the form of the skeleton. And you can see that this skeleton figure is staring down at a gold skull that it's holding. That is really interesting to me. I feel like that could be a lot to do with the strength of facing your shadows, facing your fears, facing the eventuality of your death, facing the things that have gone wrong, the things that you want to turn away from, the things that it might be difficult for you to confront. And so to me it's very interesting that strength is almost playing with the idea of confronting shadows, confronting whatever it's difficult for you to look at. I really enjoy that about this particular portrayal of the strength card, and I love all of the white outlining for the roses at the bottom. I love the fact that the skeleton appears to be rising out of roses or rose bushes. There's something about that that is really powerful for me. The Judgment card instantly strikes me as very dark. It seems like I'm watching a punishment being meted out here, and instantly as soon as I saw it I felt a little bit uncomfortable with it. So that's going to be really interesting imagery to be working with for Judgment. Again, very different, something that will take my mind in a different direction, which for me is really the main reason to have different decks and work with different imagery, is so that I can be taking my mind in a different direction. I can be allowing the cards to speak to me in different ways. The ways that different artists portray different things in the cards really helps me to get out of my own way and add new associations and new thought processes to my own kind of arsenal of different materials that I have in my head and in my heart that pertain to each card. So for me, this is very new material for Judgment. This is a new way of going into it. Again, as I said, uncomfortable imagery for me. It feels dark. It feels like I've stumbled in on something that I shouldn't be looking at, and something that is really not going to end very well. It makes me feel uncomfy, so I think that there's something to that. I think that there's something worthwhile in exploring that further and thinking about how I relate that to the Judgment card in general and what it means to me in general. So the first of the four suits that we come across in Marigold Tarot after the Major Arcana is Wands, and Wands are represented by plants and flowers. This is Four of Wands, and really just so striking. The white outlines are so intricate and beautiful. It's almost like an explosion of these gorgeous intricate white outlines, very delicate. There is something delicate, I think, about this deck overall because of particularly the white line aspects of the illustrations. There's just something really pretty and elegant about the drawings of the flowers, and again, I love those diamond shaped, what I can only say look like stars to me, in the background. So I really, really love this Four of Wands. The Six of Wands has this really beautiful kind of garland circle, and then the main flower in the middle. There again, there's this delicacy. It's really pretty. It's really fragile looking. It's very ethereal. It almost looks ghostly in a way. It's just so pretty. I mean, I know pretty is a really generic, really widely used word, but it's just like, it's fucking pretty. What can I tell you? There's something so pretty about this and delicate, and I almost feel like those diamond shaped stars in the background are making the whole thing kind of twinkle, and it's very captivating, this deck. The way that the plants and flowers are drawn is captivating. I'll show you Eight of Wands and Nine of Wands together because this has got more of a sturdy kind of illustration to it with both of these cards. The white outline is more pronounced, the lines are thicker, and you've got more of a heady use of gold. So you've got almost the block use of gold here with Eight of Wands and Nine of Wands. The sunflowers in Nine of Wands are absolutely tonk. I'm really loving that imagery, and again, the starker, bolder, more present white lines there with both of these cards, but particularly the Nine of Wands is really beautiful to see, and it really just sort of jumps off of that black background so beautifully. I love the fact that Queen of Wands is engaging with sunflowers. That's really awesome to see, and I very much enjoy the outfit Queen of Wands is wearing. It's just beautiful. I can almost see it kind of shimmering, and I can almost feel the texture of it. I love her halo. There's something really beautiful about this Queen of Wands image. It kind of stays true in a way, obviously, to the presence of the sunflower in the Rider-Waite imagery, but so beautifully departs from it at the same time. The next suit that I'm coming across is the Cups, suit of Cups, and the cups appear to be represented by skulls. Now let me show you first of all Ace of Cups. This is very strong. Immediately you know you're in for a wild ride when you look at Ace of Cups, and obviously the aces are very much the distilled energy of the entire suit overall. So when we look at the ace, we very often can get a sense in a way of what is actually in store for us with the entire suit, whether it's wands, cups, pentacles or swords. Now I think that's why a lot of people don't like non-illustrative pips, because the ace in that case is very often not really that much to look at. It's just one sword or one cup or whatever, and there doesn't seem to be any glimpse of what we can further take from the suit or what it really is going to give to us in alignment with the imagery of the deck we're looking at. There's no sense of that blandness to the Ace of Cups here. The Ace of Cups in this deck is so full on. It's almost sort of a bit stunning, and it sort of stops you in your tracks. So this is a very exciting Ace of Cups for me. I love this sort of sliced open skull and all of that treasure inside, all of that gold inside, and the way it's framed by flowers, the way that you've got no bottom jaw, so those teeth are kind of like coming into the foreground and sort of sticking out from the darkness. It's very powerful, very potent. Three of Cups is so intense as well. You've got these two half skulls pouring this glorious gold liquid into a very ceremonially decorated third skull, which is kind of sort of framed by a sunflower and other foliage. There's something really esoteric about that. There's something super occult about that. There's something very beautiful about this card at the same time as it presenting as very sort of chilling, and beautiful symmetry to it. I really love Three of Cups. Ten of Cups has 4 nooses in the illustration. That's something that I would have to think about a lot more. It doesn't seem to be immediately obvious why nooses would present themselves in Ten of Cups. If we think about all of the traditional associations that we have with Ten of Cups, nooses don't seem to be immediately overwhelmingly relevant, but that's never really put me off. That's something that I'll look into and I'll think about, and again, I will appreciate the fact that this new material and this new imagery will lead me to new ways of thinking about Ten of Cups. I think that this could be triggering or considered to be unnecessary or just confusing for some people. I'm going to reserve my judgment on it. I think it's an interesting thing to see. Again, it's not immediately obvious why that would be, but I'm willing to work with it and explore it more. I'm going to show you guys the 4 court cards for the Suit of Cups together, the Page, Knight, Queen and King. All of them showcase a close-up of a skull which has been sliced at the top to reveal something emerging or something being seated within that receptacle that has been created by the open skull. That is something that is really interesting, and when you see the 4 cards together in connection with each other, obviously there is just something really powerful about that. So I do want to show you all of those as a kind of set, if you will. The Suit of Swords in Marigold Tarot is represented by swords. Swords are the main image that runs throughout all of the different cards in this suit. Immediately, 3 of Swords strikes me as very pleasing. I'm super happy with it. 3 of Swords is my favourite card from the whole of the Minor Arcana. And 3 of Swords in Marigold Tarot is beautiful, particularly for me, because I love anatomical hearts. I'm really into sketches and paintings and depictions of the anatomical heart, whether it's split open to reveal the chambers or whether it's actually closed. I, for one of my A-level projects for art, actually created a series of anatomical hearts. There were 9 of them, and I did each one in a different format. And I actually used real hearts that I picked up from the butcher's shop to actually kind of draw them and open them up. I dissected them, I looked at the chambers and everything. So let's say it was somewhat of a passion of mine at a certain time, the depiction of the anatomical heart, and I was really super interested in it. So the fact that 3 of Swords contains an anatomical heart, and it is my favourite card from the Minor Arcana, is definitely a wild stroke of luck there. So I'm really happy about that, and that really brings the deck up in my estimation quite a bit. I really like the bold white line illustrations in 5 of Swords. I really enjoy the way Amrit Ra has kind of played with the white line work. So sometimes it's really fragile, really delicate. It's practically ethereal. It looks ghostly. It looks like it's not really there. And then at other times she's really exaggerated it, made it extremely bold, and I feel she's done that in a very consciously artistic way to convey the severity of something, the extremity of something, the realness of something, or, you know, the ethereal nature of something, the mystical nature of something, or indeed just the beauty of something. So she's used the white lines to make something either incredibly more haunting or incredibly more real and earthly, and I really enjoy the way she's done that with 5 of Swords. I think that's probably the most bold white line work I've seen in the deck so far. 9 of Swords just showcases a jawline framed by swords in this very pretty, very interesting, visually pleasing way. That is interesting to think of, you know, why the jawline as opposed to the rest of the skull as well. So that's going to be something interesting to look into, I think. 10 of Swords almost presents me with this star that's been created out of swords and daggers, and you can see in the middle the skull that's being pierced with the central sword there, the longest of the swords that are featured. This is really beautiful, very visually interesting, really draws the eye to it. I would say in pretty much any spread that you would do with Marigold Tarot, that would be one of the cards that would kind of draw your eye to it, aesthetically speaking, sooner. I absolutely adore this ribcage, pelvis and spine that's featured in Page of Swords, that is absolutely stuffed with roses and leaves. This is gorgeous. This is exactly the kind of thing I love, and it's exactly the kind of image that makes me so happy that I did actually put into the Kickstarter for Marigold Tarot, and that I have my hands on it now. There's something really kind of brutal and beautiful about this. It's brutality and beauty at the same time, and it's so symbolic. I really love it. I have these kinds of images come through in my dreams at times, and so it really does do something to me to see an image like this, and I look forward to working with that image more. The final suit, which would ordinarily be the Suit of Pentacles, is actually been renamed as the Suit of Rings, and rings are the central feature in the suit. So in all of the pictures you have rings in some capacity. I really enjoy 4 of Rings because you have this great great big full moon in the background, and then you have the 4 hands moving towards each other, and each of them are wearing a ring. And I just find that really pleasing, really interesting. I feel like it is the beginning of a great unity, and that great big full moon in the background seems to be kind of representative of what can be achieved when this unity is created and when there is this sense of cooperation between these 4 individuals. So I very much enjoy 4 of Rings a lot, and I really do love just the amount of white in the middle with that great big full moon. Again, this very much draws the eye to it. 8 of Rings shows a hand reaching up out of a lot of kind of foliage and flowers. Really beautiful image. There are a lot of rings on this hand, and the fingers are crossed, which I think presents a very interesting piece of imagery that I will be enjoying looking into in relation to 8 of Rings or 8 of Pentacles traditionally. Page of Rings is absolutely gorgeous. I would say this is one of my favourite court cards that I've seen in Marigold Tarot in this initial exploration of it. There's just something really queen-like about Page of Rings. I know it's not the Queen, but there's something so queenly about this, and just really aristocratic and beautiful. I love it. But then I also do want to make space to talk about Queen of Rings as well. Look at that clothing. The amount of gold that has been placed into Queen of Rings really makes it, you know, very shimmering and very kind of elegant. And then you've got this beautiful gesture, this very bold gesture with the arms outstretched and the ring reaching up into the sky. It's like she's almost placing it up in a very kind of witchcrafty sort of way, and I love that as well. Well, darlings, altogether I have showcased 29 of the 78 cards in the Marigold Tarot. I hope this has been an interesting glimpse for you into this deck. I am really, really glad that I backed it on Kickstarter. I'm really glad that I own a copy. I think it's gorgeous. If you own a copy, if you've gotten hold of yours, let me know what you think of it. Let me know if you had any problems getting into it. That box situation at the beginning could have been a little bit of a downer if I wasn't so very excited about getting this open. And I definitely would say that this box is not usable. Again, there's no purchase, there's nothing, you know, there's no way of getting into it. You know, and even with my nails long like this, you'd think I'd be able to, like, you know, get a little bit. There's nothing. It's just totally flat. Like, the size of the top of it is the exact size of the bottom of it, so it's just not really worked out. So I'd love to know if anyone else had that difficulty. I will be decanting into a bag, so I'm not going to be using that box, but I am very happy to have this. It's really beautiful. I'm interested in seeing how well it will come across on camera for my video readings. So, you know, just interested in how much of that white line work is going to be picked up, what it's actually going to look like on camera. And I do experiment with different altar cloths when it comes to decks that have a very specific aesthetic, that use a lot of black or a lot of white or have very fine line work. I have kind of become aware over time that different altar cloths produce a different effect, and they give more light or more detail, or they actually take detail away. So I'm definitely going to be thinking about which kind of altar cloths I can use to maximize the intensity and the aesthetic of the illustration style. I really want to thank Unwrit Bra for making this. It's beautiful. It's going to be a great addition to my collection, and I can't wait to start working with it. Thanks for joining me for this unboxing, Pop-Tarts. So much love until next time. And don't forget that you can always purchase readings and sessions over at my online store. I'll leave the link down below. Blessed be, honey bunnies. Mwah.